Hi, my name's Renata. Welcome to my YouTube channel, which is dedicated to intercultural communication in expat life, public speaking, business skills, and job search across cultures, and foreign language learning. Now, this video is part of the intercultural communication in expat life category. Should probably be the first video you watch because it's an introduction to intercultural communication. So if you've been asking yourself, what is it exactly? What do I understand by intercultural communication? How do you actually define culture? What are different layers of cultures and perceptions? And how can it lead to misunderstandings? And most importantly, what can I do to succeed? How can I communicate across cultures successfully? Well then, this is a great video for you. It's going to last about 20 minutes, I would guess. I would usually use this topic as a keynote speaker or in webinars or when working with my clients as an introductory session before we go much deeper. So this is really just scratching the surface, but I hope it'll help you get a first impression of this topic. So I'll be sharing my screen most of the time. So the video will be looking at the presentations I use for work. And then I'll come back and you'll see me again at the very end of this. So kick back and enjoy, like I said, about 20 minutes to understand what is intercultural communication and how does it work. So let's get started with the content. Like I said, we're going to talk about culture and intercultural communication in terms of a definition first. Then I'll introduce you to the different layers of culture and the power of perception, followed by those areas of misunderstandings that could happen. And finally, some tips and tricks, kind of an action plan on how to succeed. Let's start with culture. In intercultural training, what do we understand by culture? Well, there are many definitions out there. You can look them up, but this is sort of my own definition, how I see it. So it is something we have subconsciously acquired. You probably can't recall a subject in school that was called culture, but somehow you know what your country's culture or your own culture is. So it is something you got used to over time and you learn to navigate it. You probably don't like every little thing about your own culture, so it's not necessary that you fully agree with it. It's still your culture, no matter how much you agree or disagree with it, but you've learned to navigate it. And more importantly is you have learned to recognize those patterns, norms, and behaviors. And you realized when I start doing certain things, acting in a certain way, communicating in a certain way, showing a certain behavior, then this particular pattern or norm or behavior is recognized, reinforced, and rewarded by the group I belong to. Recognized, reinforced, and rewarded. These are the most important words here. And if I don't do what's expected, well, then my non-compliance is probably frowned upon or even punished. So recognized, reinforced, and rewarded. I want you to remember the 3 R's. That's kind of what defines culture. And it can be different. And that's exactly why we have intercultural communication. Because if you see somebody with their arms crossed, what does it mean? Does it mean that they're angry? Or does it mean that they're confident? Or does it mean that they're a good listener? Is this something they would do to show you they're a good listener? Well, which of the three would you have said? What is true for you personally and your own culture? Or time? Oh, yeah, we have massive misunderstandings about time across cultures. What is too early? What is on time? And when am I too late? Or not looking somebody straight into their eyes. What does it mean? How would you describe it? Give me one adjective. Is the adjective respectful? Or is it shy? Or is it maybe dishonest? Anything is possible. It's just what is recognized, reinforced, and rewarded in a particular group or culture. Now, what is intercultural communication? Well, in communications theory, we always have a sender and a receiver. The sender has a message for the receiver. The message is encoded, and the receiver has to decode the message. It goes through channels, filters, people's different personalities, egos, self-image, and so on. And when the receiver answers, the receiver becomes the sender, and the sender becomes the receiver. And the message goes through the same process of encoding and decoding and channels and so on. Now, in their own language, in their own culture, many people find that already like a walk on a tightrope. Now, throw in the element of culture, and you might find this a much more volatile situation to deal with. Also, different layers of culture. Most people, when they hear culture and intercultural communication, they think of national culture between two countries. But when we look at our own home country, is everybody the same? No, not really. So, yes, there's regional culture, but there's a lot more, many more layers of culture. A few other examples might be professional or educational culture, gender, ethnic, or class culture, religious, philosophical culture, generational culture. And if you work for a large corporate organization, I'm sure there's a corporate culture that's very different, maybe even from a national culture. And what is it that you personally like? Well, it's your own personal culture or your own personality. So bear in mind that culture is not just between two countries. It's not just national or regional culture. There are many other different layers of culture. And the actual behavior we see when we communicate with others is a combination of these levels of culture, people's own personality, and the circumstances. Please bear that in mind. This is how intercultural communication works. It's not just one element, it's a communication mixture, a combination of all of them. And we have different perceptions. So let's test your perception. Look at the picture. What do you see? I'm pretty sure your answer is two giraffes. Okay. But what would you do? How would you react if I told you that I see an elephant? What's your reaction? Your honest first reaction. I see an elephant. All right, we seem to disagree. Now, let me show you why I see an elephant. Oh, look, there it is. Told you so. It's an elephant. How could you possibly see two giraffes? I see an elephant. Oh, you're looking at it from this perspective. I see. That's why you see two giraffes. So the important thing to notice was why. This is so important in intercultural communication that we move on from the what and the how to the why. The what would simply be, this is an elephant. It's not enough because you don't believe me. The how would be, well, I looked at it and I saw it with my own eyes. It's still not enough. You still don't believe me because you see something different. The only way to convince you or make you see, or for you to convince me and make me see, is to ask why. Well, because I'm looking at it from a different angle. So it might look different from here and from there. So show me, or can I show you? asking for the why, asking for people to show you, to explain to you, asking curious questions. The element of why is essential in intercultural communication. Let me give you a few more examples of the power of perception. When you see this animal, what do you think? What do you feel? Does it make you happy? Because you would love to have many of these cute little bees in your garden. Does it make you happy because you're thinking of honey? Or does it give you a feeling of discomfort because you're afraid of them? Maybe you're allergic. You don't want to get stung by a bee. What exactly your reaction is going to be very much depends on your perception. It's the same with intercultural communication and collaboration between different cultures and countries and industries and other layers of culture, as you remember. Let me give you another example. Your perspective from being stuck on an island when you see a boat approaching is very different from your perspective of being the one on the boat who finally sees the island. And in intercultural communication in business and daily life, we get the same situation. The typical misunderstandings. The most famous one of all times, obviously, is how do we greet one another? You're trying to shake hands and you get a respectful bow. But it continues, for example, with presentations. And I will have a separate video on giving presentations across cultures because your audience has very different expectations, and also the presenter has very different ideas of what is a good presentation and what is not. In this case, at the end of the presentation, are there going to be any questions? Is it positive to ask a question or is it negative to ask a question? Do you actually invite people to ask questions, yes or no? These are the things that vary across cultures. Or the octopus, my symbol for multitasking. So, a multitasking octopus, is that positive? Are you really good at time management? You can do multiple things at the same time. You keep the overview, you get things done. Or are you very distracted? You can't keep a deadline. You're confused. You have too much on your plate. What are different perceptions on multitasking across cultures? It continues, and there's an endless sea of intercultural misunderstandings. Let me give you just a few more examples, like direct versus indirect communication. There will also be a separate video on that. It really warrants an entire video. This is one of the biggest areas of misunderstanding across cultures. How directly or indirectly do we say things, especially when it comes to feedback, in particular negative feedback? Like I said, I'll have a separate video on that. Expressive versus restrained behavior. How common is it in a culture that I express my feelings? Or do I hold back like a poker face? Also, task versus relationship-oriented cultures. What does it mean? I'll probably have that topic mixed with another one in another video too. Polychronic versus monochronic. That's our octopus. Do I start one thing, finish it before I start the next thing, or can I start 5 things at the same time and be really good at multitasking? Also, power distance. I'm probably going to mix that topic with task and relationship oriented and decision making in a separate video. The difference between an egalitarian and a hierarchical culture. What are some expectations? How do I behave around my boss, my peers, or people working for me on my team, my direct reports? We have very different views or perceptions about that. Individualism versus collectivism, very important topic as well. And decision making There can be many misunderstandings between cultures. Is it more consensual or more top-down decision making? And as far as it comes to presentations, the application first versus principle first way of presenting is very important. Wait for that video about presenting across cultures to understand the differences here. And there are many other areas of misunderstandings. Like I said, this is just supposed to be an overview. Now, let me come to the last part on how to exceed. Some action plan. These are my 5 steps. Step number 1 would be to build awareness of your own culture, your own personality, and your own preferences. What is it that you really like? What is it how you see things, your own values, your own norms and patterns, your own culture? You sometimes have to understand it first, like a fish in water. Would the fish know what water is? Probably not until you take the fish out of water. Well, get to know yourself is always step 1. Step 2 is to acquire important knowledge. Get some training, read up on certain things, learn about other people's personalities and preferences. And then in step 3, you can do your gap analysis. Only then can you actually compare your congruent and divergent areas, meaning what you have in common and where things seem to be different. Hopefully, you'll come to a very important conclusion, which is point number 4, that there is no better or worse, just different. It takes a while to realize. We tend to say, this is better here and this is better there. Oh, this is so much worse than there. But in the end, every system has its advantages. Every system has its disadvantages. So just realize that it's different and how to navigate different, which will allow you to come to step number 5, which is to develop a curiosity for difference, not a fear. So be curious and not afraid. Ask curious questions to understand other cultures, other personality types, other preferences. Ask for the why. Don't stop with the what and how. Move on to the why. Really understand and stretch your comfort zone. You don't have to change yourself, but stretch your comfort zone to go like, okay, that's different, not my preference, but now I know what it is, why it is, and how to navigate it comfortably. This is how you can become more proficient when interacting with others across cultures. So here are a few more things you can do. Here's an overview of what research has found really helps people to be successful. It has to do with attitude, curiosity, openness, skills, knowledge, and adaptability. People who have a certain attitude, this willingness to listen, watch, and learn, tend to be more successful when interacting across cultures. People who are patient and tolerant have this appreciation, like this curiosity for different instead of a fear, who have empathy and a sense of adventure. They have a much easier time. But it's also the skills and the knowledge, the things you can actually learn. You can buy a book and read about another culture. You can take some coaching sessions, attend a training, a webinar, learn about other cultures, customs, values, norms, and beliefs, get an understanding of different perceptions, and compare your self-awareness and the awareness of other cultures in a gap analysis. These skills, combined with an attitude of curiosity and openness, help people communicate more successfully across cultures. And if you can also develop a certain level of adaptability, the willingness to adapt and change whenever necessary, this ability to work with ambiguity, uncertainty, and to see the why beyond the what, then you'll be successful at intercultural communication. Use this as a checklist. Have a look at the things on the list here. How well does this describe you? Can you check off a few things from the list? You're already very good at that, or this is exactly how you are. And what are you lacking? What could you improve? What's missing? This is your checklist for developing intercultural competence. This being said, well, thank you for watching this brief introduction to intercultural communication. If you want to know more, you can find me online looking for my name, Renate Urban, or my company name, Urban Training and Services. Have a look at my website or find me on LinkedIn and connect with me there. I also publish lots of articles there, and you can contact me through my website or through LinkedIn if you want to get in touch. This is the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you're curious for more, keep coming back to my YouTube channel. There'll be more videos that I'll be uploading over the course of the year, so subscribe and come back and stay tuned for more. Thank you and have a great day.